Conditions.py-visual.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this video we are going to be looking at Python, and we are going to be looking at conditions in Python, the if, elif, and else statements. So we're going to be using NVDA Screen Reader, and then we're going to be using Visual Studio Code as our text editor. So I'm going to run our Python file. We're going to run it in git bash terminal, and from there, what I want to tell you as well is I've written this code out and then just want to talk through it that way so I can spend more time on um, knowing where spaces are in each condition and where things go and the indentation. So I am going to first, I forgot to turn my screen reader speed down, so let me do that real quick.
NVDA menu. Preferences of menu P. Settings S.
Let it get
NVDA
moving
settings.
here.
Change to a 14. Change voice colon 3 colon 90 80 7 60
All right, we'll get a 65.
64 65. Conditions.py.
All right, so
Number.
again, we're in this Python file, and we're looking at Python 3.9. So the first line here is I have a commented line,
Number vars.
and it's just number vars. So again, we create that comment line with a whatever you want to call it, but the screen reader calls it a number sign.
User input equals quote no quote.
So then we declare a variable called user input, and we set it equal to a string of no. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to edit this here in a minute, and we're going to use a Python function input, and that's gonna make it to where we can type in the terminal and actually type what we want, yes, no, or just leave it empty. So then the next line,
If user input,
and
user input,
just to make sure, that way so you know what I'm talking about whenever I say I want to focus more on spaces. So right here, when we declare user input, we type user input, and now we're using camel case, so that's lowercase u SER, and then no spaces, capital I NPUT. So the NPUT is lowercase, and then I space, then I put my equal sign, and then I space again, then I type my string, so quote, no, quote. So, and that's one thing I wanted to highlight. That's whenever I was learning and still learning, watching videos, one of the biggest things is I'll have to go out and find some written code just to make sure I know what the spacings are, because that doesn't get defined in the videos. So we'll go to the next line.
If user input equals quote yes quote colon.
So now we're going to start our condition. So again, we're going to have an if, an elif, so that's ELIF, and then we're going to have an else. So first we type if
user input equals quote
space user input equals, and then so what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to type this out. So let me
4 space print left,
because I think just reviewing it.
no indent blank.
All right, let's go.
4 space print left, no indent. If user input,
we're just going to delete all of it.
If user input selection remove.
All right, so that's all gone. So we're going to put a comment right here. So number sign space, and then we're going to say get started with the conditions. Okay.
Number get started with the conditions.
Oh, well, if I could spell the conditions. There we go.
Conditions.
Okay, so
blank.
And then I go to the end of the line with end and press enter. Now if we type if, so if space, now right here is where we type what we want to condition. And then following that condition is a colon, and then you press enter to get to your new line, and that's going to indent. So in anything that is indented the same amount of spaces will be executed within this if block. So the condition that we're going to be looking at is user input. So we want to check if it's yes, no, or empty. So right now we're actually going to first check if the user said yes. So we're going to say, we said if space and then user input,
conditions dot
and then we're going to use an assignment operator, which I'll talk about in a future video. And we're going to, it's equals space, quote, yes, quote,
yes.
colon. Okay, and after we do that, we press enter.
4 space.
And now you hear my screen reader says 4 spaces, because when I went to the next line, the text editor automatically indented me 4 spaces. So if I up arrow,
No indent if user input equals quote yes quote colon.
all right, so you hear if user input equals yes, and you hear it in quotes, so that's a string, and we down arrow.
4 space blank.
Now, if the user input is yes, we're just gonna
Blank.
print out. So we type print, left parenthesis,
Conditions dot-
quote. Now the text editor is gonna finish that quote and then finish that right parenthesis. So I'm already in between everything where I need to be. And we're gonna type you may pass, exclamation mark. Okay, so now if I read this line,
print left paren, quote you may pass bang, quote right paren.
all right, so you hear it, and then I'm going to go to the end of the line,
blank,
press enter, and then now I'm still indented 4 spaces, so I'm going to press backspace
space,
just to knock that out. Now if I read the current line,
no indent blank,
you hear no indent and it's blank. So here we're going to type elif, so ELIF, space, and then now we type our conditions. So here we want to see if it equals no, so user
suggest
input
conditions
equals quote, so that's user input space equals space quote and then no quote colon, and then we press enter,
4 space,
and then it indents us that 4 spaces. So anything indented 4 spaces is going to execute on this elif block. And then what we want to type here is print
suggest
left parenthesis quote, and remember it's going to end it for us, but we can also type it and finish it ourselves. So quote right parenthesis, but then we're going to left arrow twice
right quote
to get back in the middle. All right, here we're going to say you may not pass, exclamation mark. Now we're going to go to the end of this line
blank
first, and then we're going to read it.
Print left paren, quote you may not pass bang, quote right paren.
All right, so now we're going to press enter. We go to a new line. Again, it indents us, but we want to move back over to the left, so we hit backspace.
Space.
All right, so now if we read our line,
no indent blank.
No indent blank. So now we want to use else. So basically, if the first is not true and the second is not true, then we can only do one other thing. And that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to say
blank
else, so ELSE colon,
conditions.py,
because we don't need a condition here, because the condition is that nothing else, so we want to do this. So basically a default. So if we press enter,
4 space,
after typing else colon, press enter, and you'll hear the 4 space indent. And then we want to say, we want to print left parenthesis, quote, right parenthesis, because we're going to finish it. Press left arrow twice.
Right, quote.
And then we want to type, you must type an answer.
Answer.
And then we're going to say exclamation mark. Okay. So now
blank.
If we press enter, I'm going to, or don't press enter, you press end to get to the end of that line. We're going to read it.
Print left paren, quote you must type an answer bang, quote right paren.
All right, so now that we're at the end of the line, we want to press enter. It's going to indent us, so we want to backspace.
Space.
All right, so now I'm going to use my code formatter, and I can do Shift Alt F.
Error.
And nothing, oh, I don't have it installed. So that's going to be a video that I'm going to come out here in the next couple days about the extensions I have installed. So now that we have this set up, we can actually run this. So if we go back to the top of our file, Control Home,
No indent number var.
and we down arrow,
User input equals quote no quote.
we hear our user input, we set it to no. So we're going to save, Control S, and then we're going to Alt Tab.
Task view window. Conditions.py dash visual. Task view window. Conditions.
Let me figure out what it's do. Oh, wrong.
Conditions.
I'm on a different
OBS 2
keyboard. So
6.0.2 left paren. Videos row 1 column. OBS 2 video Python line if line elif line.
all right. So this is the folder. I'm
Not
going
selected,
to
not
Control Space to deselect that file. Press the Applications
Context
key
menu.
and press S.
Git bash here S.
Get bash here. I want to hit Enter.
Python /us or /
Okay,
Windows
so
64
now we want to type Python. Now
Python.
we type Python space. Now the file name is called conditions.py. However, it's the only file in the folder. So we can actually just press Tab
Conditions.py.
and it will populate itself. So if we press Enter now.
You may not pass bang.
Okay, so remember, our user input was no. So we got the message, you may not pass. Now, what I wanted to do is get over to the code, and I wanted to show you an input function.
User input equals quote no quote.
So what we're going to say is instead of no
quote number quote and quote.
Now what I do here is I go to the beginning of the line by pressing Home. I hold down Control and press right arrow one time.
No quote number.
Now that's going to put my cursor in between the quote and the N of no. Now I want a left arrow. I let go of Control and I left arrow.
Quote.
And it puts me on the left side of that first quote. Now I can do Shift N.
No quote selected.
And it will select it for me. Press backspace.
Quote.
It's now gone. We want to type input, so INPUT,
input 1 of 2,
left parenthesis, right parenthesis. So we go back left one with our left arrow.
Right paren.
And we
line feed, right paren. And
we get in between the left parenthesis and the right parenthesis. Now in here we want to type a string.
Prompt
and our string is simply going to be a prompt to ask them do they want to pass. So we're just going to say quote, quote, and then left arrow one time.
Quote.
Get in the middle of those quotes, and we're going to say, would you like to pass? Question mark. Now we're going to save this, and based off of their response, we'll output a message. So we're going to Alt-Tab back to our code editor, or our terminal. So here we're just gonna, we don't have to type it again, we can just up arrow
$Python conditions.py,
and you hear it's on that line. We press enter.
Would you like to pass question?
Alright, so it's gonna ask us a question, and for those of you that can't see, like I'm sitting here now, from what I'm told, there's a blinking cursor that gets put on the screen, and then you can type a message. So we're gonna type yes and then press enter.
You may pass bang.
And you may pass. So we're going to run this again. We're going to up arrow.
$Python conditions.py.
And we are going to press enter.
Would you like to pass question?
Would you like to pass? We're just going to press enter for a blank message.
You must type an answer bang.
Alright, so it says you must type an answer, and normally what you would do is this would be in a loop. You would revert them back to that, basically an error, and then give them the chance to do it again. So this is conditions, so if, elif, else statements in Python. I hope you've learned something in this video, and if you made it to the end and please do give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, thank you for coming, and please click that subscribe button and the bell notification icon if you enjoyed, to get more videos like this. And then if you already are a subscriber, thank you very much for watching, and look forward to more videos. See you in the next one. Thank you.
Condition Python OBS 2.6